Okay, so this is Syndra versus Viktor, and he said, this season I've been grinding, trying to improve the game, can't seem to get past gold 3 and 2. I think my laning is pretty strong, but I end up getting large leads. I cannot close out games where I end up throwing it away. I for sure need help team fighting and mid to late game macro. Okay, and then you've got a bunch of comments here as well. Alright, so let's have a look. Syndra versus Viktor is the matchup. Click off this and wait for these comments to wait. Let me quickly get a notepad up. So we've got, this is Syndra versus Viktor coaching 2. I've actually done this matchup before. Okay, so we've got the TP, we've got the corrupting pot, so I do like that. I personally wouldn't go electrocute unless I'm taking ignite. So electrocute and ignite obviously synergize really well together, and I think if I were going TP, I'd probably go Airy instead, or maybe First Strike. It kind of depends on the matchup. I think First Strike versus Viktor isn't that great because Viktor will outrange you for a lot of this game. So personally, I would probably, in terms of like runes, slash items here, I'd probably say like Electricity plus Ignite obviously is good. I like the TP plus Corrupting part here is really good, but I'd probably take Airy or Comet or First Strike. I'd probably take one of those. Just because Electrocute and TP don't synergize. Oops, that's the wrong window. Electrocute and TP don't synergize with one another super well. Because you kind of, yeah, you're trying to like go for that like big burst play, but it's just not really as easy, obviously, if you have TP. But let's kind of see how this plays out. So let me go back. What jungler reverse? You have a Vi. They have a Mordekaiser. Okay, so you're not really scared of getting ganked early at all. Okay. Coming up to contest the wave. This looks good. Yeah, okay. So far, looking good. Nice Q as well. We've got no problems here. Enemy jungler starts bot, so you probably want to look to swap topside. I don't think you can get ganked anyway, but yeah, you swap topside. Alright, so far I'm seeing clean gameplay. Clean gameplay. Okay, I do think the positioning here could be a bit more aggressive. So obviously, like early game, you probably know this because I feel like it looks to me at least like you're thinking about it, but maybe it's just not as much of a habit. But you really want to be in position to harass on CS, right? So that means you really need to look at the wave and be like, okay, what is the next CS that he's going to go for? Like realistically, it's going to be this one, right? So you can be in a position to harass him with Q when he goes for it. So you should be either like up here, or you can even be like out here and try and make him choose. But you want to be a bit further up, because if he's able to just get creeps like that and not really take punishment for it, it's kind of bad. Now, I think throwing out Qs like this, it's fine, but it's riskier than if you just do it when they go for a CS, right? Like, it's much easier for them to dodge if you throw it at this time. Obviously, like, so far they've ended up hitting, so I can't complain too much, but it is just, like, better if you can time them with CS if possible. Like, yeah, I think here's another example where it kind of just ended up desynced because you used your Q a bit too late last time. Now he can get another creep here without really getting punished for it, and then you throw another Q that doesn't have that higher chance of hitting, I wouldn't think. You're about to hit 2 here. So I think you should have been a lot more aggressive here. So if you're paying attention to his cooldowns, you'll see that he just used Q here. And you know that his Q is still going to be down by the time your Q is up. So that means as soon as you hit level 2 here, you can honestly just run at him and try like auto QE him for an electrocute proc. Because you know that he's not going to be level 2. And also you're going to have cooldowns and he won't. So I think here, really look to pressure with a cooldown advantage, or the level advantage, like both of those there would be really good. And also, I didn't see what item he started, but you have Corrupting Pot, and I don't think he did. Can I go back and look? Did you ever click on him? I want to say, I feel like he started Doran's Ring. Yeah, okay, so he started Doran's Ring, which means you can afford to trade HP equally, or like, yeah, kind of evenly. So if you do, say, I don't know, 150 damage to each other, that's better for you, right? Because you have more sustain. And also, it's much easier for you to look for an all-in on Viktor than it is for Viktor to look for an all-in on you. So, yeah, I definitely think can be more aggressive with the trades here. Because, like, right now, the Corrupting Part isn't doing a whole lot for you. Just kind of sitting there. Like, obviously, part of it is because he's not harassing as much as he should. But, yeah, it's a decent trade there. I don't mind it. Like, again, we've got the Corrupting Part. I think after you kill this creep, probably want to ward. So the thing is that because it's 230 around about, like the enemy jungler should be coming back to topside fairly soon. So I think now go and place your ward. Ideally, if you can place the ward before this wave crashes, that way you'll be able to actually harass when it does go into tower. Because, you know, like a really big part of pushing these first 3 waves is that it allows you to harass under the tower when it actually crashes. But here, I feel like you're fast pushing it because you're scared of the jungler. But like you shouldn't really be scared of the jungler because it's a Mordekaiser. And you really want to be harassing under the tower. Okay, yeah, so I think the sequence here was really wrong. In my opinion, like after this, being like, okay, you really want to harass when this goes under the tower, just come up here, place a ward over the wall, and then just come back and keep slow pushing and keep harassing him. If you use all your cooldowns on the wave here, it means 1, Viktor gets to farm this wave for free, and 2, like those cooldowns that could be used on Viktor are instead just kind of wasted. And you're maybe vulnerable to jungle ganks here anyway. Like, I don't think you're scared of Mordekaiser, but if the reason you're pushing this wave is because you're scared, then pushing this faster, like, you're still vulnerable at this point anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So I think, really, 2 more things here is try 230 ward, which admittedly you had this almost right. I think it's better if you can ward before the wave crashes, at least in my opinion. If you want to harass on the tower, that is. If you don't want to harass on the tower, then it doesn't really matter, but I think it's better to harass on the tower here. Okay, so you can ward. Yeah, so like I think ultimately you only ended up really being able to use this wave for like 1 Q. And that feels like kind of bad, you know? I think you definitely could have looked to get quite a lot more, just like off the control you had early game here. I don't know if there is any way to just like get rid of this. I feel like there isn't, but anyway. Okay, so you should be letting this wave kind of bounce back to you now. Obviously, you still want to keep harassing, which you are. So I feel like all the laning concepts are kind of there. They're just not being executed to the level they need to be. Like, I think you could have harassed more. I think you could have definitely, like, punished the cooldowns a little bit harder than you are. So, yeah, he could definitely be a lot lower here. And that would put you in a much better position. I think you're still in, honestly, a pretty good spot. But, yeah, just need to take the... You're doing a really good job, I think, of, like, the basics of those laning concepts. It's just we need to get better at them. So this is a really great spot. You have a big sustain advantage, and the wave is kind of cooked for him. So you should be looking to heavy trade. Yeah, I like this. You really want to make sure he can't crash this wave. So you want to be putting a lot of orders on this wave to make sure it can't crash. Just like, if you can keep it here, it's probably ideal. So just look to match. You know, like if he orders the wave, you can match orders on the wave. Just like, yeah, okay. So like now that he's eat it, you need to really make sure that this doesn't go in the tower. Nice harass again. You should try pull the wave. Yep, very nice. Okay, now he's probably... Ooh, okay, so... Yeah, he's probably recalling. Yeah, I like this. If he stays, you should cancel. Okay, which you do. Alright. This is just mini shock right here. Okay, this positioning is kind of bad, so you do need to be really, really careful not to stand in the wave versus Viktor, because here, he's probably going to A these creeps no matter what. So if you stand in the wave, you just take an extra 114 damage here for no reason. So really think about how your opponent wants to trade, and make sure you kind of, you know, do what you can to mitigate that. Yeah, I don't think there's any way you can hold that wave, but that's fine. Okay, I think we're in a pretty decent spot. Probably just go for the base. Yep. So, okay, we have 1050, so we're probably looking for like a Dark Seal. Okay, so you went for tier. Now, this is... It's like a controversial thing for me. So I think that if you want to pressure the early game, which I think you kind of do, because you've opted for like Corrupting Pot and Electrocute, I don't think you should go tier. So the thing with Syndra's itemization is there's a lot of things you can do. You can either just go for the straight AP, which is like, you know, Luden's Shadow Flame Rabadon, like you normally do, right? Another thing you can do is you can go like Chapter, Tier, Luden's Seraphs, right? So you get the tier fully upgraded a little bit later, but you still kind of get like a lot of that early game. I think going for what you've got here is kind of not really committing to either. It's like you don't have the full scaling of something like tier plus first strike, you know, plus, I don't know, Thorn's Ring, I guess. Or just like stuff that isn't really for early game. You know, like Corrupting Pot is very early game focused, so I don't think this really makes sense here. In my mind, I also think that Seraphs on Syndra is a little overrated in solo queue. I think it's really good for competitive. I think Seraphs as an item is actually still decent in solo queue, but I don't think the burst mages like Syndra, like Zoe, like LeBlanc should be building it. And if you are going to build it, it's because you're taking first strike and you're really playing for that scaling. So here I would probably just go for like, probably like Dark Seal Amp Tome. And actually another thing is if you are going for what's it called? If you're going for a tier, you should always buy Dark Seal over Amp Tome, because Dark Seal is just way, way better than Amp Tome. Obviously it gives a little less AP, but it gives the potential for so much more. Actually, just real quick, looking at their team comp, I think that you're maybe right to go for tier here because they do have like quite a lot of tanks, but then you wouldn't really want to go electrocute, you know? Like if you see like Mord and Mundo, that's definitely suggesting more of like a First Strike, Leandri's, Seraph's game or something like that. So I think the itemization just doesn't really make sense here. I think overall, just to kind of clear everything up, either you go for the full scaling with like tier, First Strike, or you go for something more early game with like, you know, Comet, Airy, Electrocute, and then we're looking for stuff like the Dark Seal, the Corrupting Pot, just like trying to make our early game as strong as possible. I still think you should buy Dark Seal here though, no matter what. Okay, so let me go back. I think this should be a kill. So let's see. Now, after your first base here, you really want to make sure you can start putting balls on the ground. So you have a lot of mana and you're about to hit 6. So I would probably just queue the back line here. And that way you just have an extra ball on the ground if you do decide to go for an ult. Like, Syndra doesn't really have mana problems at this point. And then I think also you have a lot of time here just to ult. Like, right, you can just definitely ult here. I don't think you'd kill him, but you would force him to base. I suppose, like, it's not the worst thing to save it. He doesn't have a lot of sustain, so you can definitely still look for something. Yeah, really try and use your mana here. Like, he is very killable. If you can get, like, one ball on the ground, you can definitely look for an all-in. I think, yeah, like, queue the melees here and then look for a stun off it. Or queue the melees and then look to kind of do something with it. Yeah, okay, so I kind of like that. I think the stun here, even if it hits, by the way, it's too early. You need to wait, like, just a little bit longer. Maybe when your queue's at, like, 2 seconds or something. Because if you follow this up, you're not actually going to have enough damage to really kill him. And also, I think just blowing all your cooldowns on the wave here, it doesn't really make sense. Like, this guy is pretty low. You really want to use your cooldowns to punish him. But remember that every time you use a cooldown on a creep, that's now, like, time you can't be harassing your opponent. So I think a few times, when you've had these built waves, like, same with the level 3, this is, like, an opportunity for you to really harass him under tower. But instead, you just end up blowing all your cooldowns on the wave, and now he actually gets freedom to just, like, farm that giant wave, even though you should be the one that's, like, actually punishing him for it. Especially because he doesn't have sustain. Like, he's kind of fucked. Okay. Yeah, so he stays. He definitely could have taken a free base. So same thing here. Queue these 3 range creeps, look for a stun off it, and then look for an all-in off of that. There's not really any point to being full mana here. Yeah, like, you can kill this guy. I promise you can kill this guy. If you just queue on the ground once, stun off it, pick it up with your W, drop a second Q, and then ult him, you'll kill him. But if you just start with this, you don't quite have the damage to do it. I'm actually going to write that down. So I think, yeah, it's Syndra specific, but really, like, post first base, like, try have a ball on the ground to stun off, and also helps your all-in. And because you don't really have mana problems at that point anyway, so it's kind of fun. Okay, gonna push the wave. I mean, you can just push this and look to reset, so that's all good. Let's see, you had a comment here somewhere. Yeah, okay, so you think you probably should have went Leandri's plus Lucidity Boots. Yeah, I think you're right. I think these two just get way too tanky, and your team doesn't have great tank killers. I think you could honestly maybe still go Sork Shoes, but I think you definitely go Leandri's. I think the Lucidity's kind of up to you, but yeah, I think Leandri's is basically a given. I think also still no Dark Seal is really not good. Like, Dark Seal is the most efficient AP item by far. So even when, like, yeah, you just, like, want to be finding a time to buy a Dark Seal basically every single game. It's just too broken not to buy. Okay, same thing as before, just, like, really try and put a ball on the ground and then stun off of it, because, yeah, you're just not creating as much threat as you'd want. Like, you kind of want to be, like, positioning around the ball so it's, like, really threatening for him to actually, like, walk up. But if there's no ball on the ground, he's not really threatened. Yeah, and here, like, if you already have a ball on the ground, this could maybe even be an all-in. Okay, this is fine. Like, you still have tons of sustain. This is actually good for you. I think you can definitely still look for a kill. So, yeah, really just focusing on that ball on the ground. And then, yeah, like that. And then you can look to stun off it if he moves up. If he doesn't, you can, like, pick it up. You could maybe get, like, even a 6-ball ulti here. Now that you've got the 2 charges, which is quite a lot of damage. Okay. Yeah, so far this is mostly just chilling. So he's used Eads, used his cooldown. Good punish. Yeah, good trade. I like that. Yeah, that was a nice cooldown punish. Very, very nice. Okay. Wave kind of comes to you. I think you can definitely like kill this guy again. Like he's very, very low. If you hit a stun with the ball already on the ground, you can just kill him here. Yeah, you do have Vi nearby. Here I'd probably just again queue the 3 range creeps, try and look for a stun off it, and then yeah, just drop the rest of the damage on him. Okay, you've actually got Kled coming. Okay, no stun. This guy's just instantly dead. I think he threw a Q in outer space, but it happens. Anyway, you got the kill. He dies. There's a Mord here. Okay, so actually gonna get the kill. Okay, so you're in an amazing spot. I wonder how you lose this game. Or did you lose this game? Maybe you didn't, but I wonder what goes wrong because you have sent me the replay after all. But it looks like you're in a really amazing spot. Honestly, even though the enemies is better, like Ludens is fine this game, right? It's not like really a big issue. Okay, so now that you have the blue, seems like you're willing to put balls on the ground, but maybe you just don't realize how much mana you have otherwise, like in the normal times. I think, again, this is a little bit of positioning. Like, again, really try not to be stacked with the creep wave, because you're just taking lots of free damage. Like, that's 200, which is a pretty significant amount just to kind of take for free. I think you maybe could have got a second Q there. Yeah, lots of just free damage taken, but you do have sustain, and that's kind of like what it's for, so it's not the end of the world. Here, you see Mord topside, so we don't really need to place these wards. Okay. I think here you should probably just, like, pop your potions. Like, if you want to be able to pressure this lane, you need to be higher on HP. I think you definitely look for some kind of kill or all-in once you have your ulti here. Good trade. Really good trade, and he also wastes his ult, so this is really good. And he... What the... Okay, so he's setting up for a gank. I was like, what is he going... What is he doing? Okay, you have ulti here. This guy's very, very low. Sieging. Get the flash. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you're 3-0s. Everything is looking amazing right now. Here, I would say just be a tiny bit careful of being super far up in the lane without sums. Like, you're probably fine here because you have a lot of vision bot side and you have Kled coming. But just realize that after you use your stun and you have no flash, this is, like, very, very greedy. Mordekaiser's bot and you have vision. So I think you're fine. But if you weren't, like, consciously thinking about that, then I think that could potentially be, like, really, really scary. Okay, this guy's just not long for this world. I mean, this is like kind of a great game. Oh, I missed another comment. Okay, yeah. I didn't see that. Sorry, I probably won't see the comments too much, to be honest. Okay, wave goes in. Probably just get that. Look to recall. I think you might have overstayed. Let's see, was Dragon up? I mean, you guys aren't contesting Drag anyway. Okay, no, I think it's fine. Base, Ludens, Sorks. Still no Dark Seal. Like, if you're Dark Seal, you'd have way more AP, considering your 4 kills. I probably wouldn't buy it now, but it definitely should have been bought sometime before. Given that you have gone for, like, the squishy killing build, you definitely want to find an angle to try, you know, pop squishies in teamfights. Ooh, they're starting to itemize a lot of MR, so I would kind of be thinking about delaying your tier and maybe going Void second tier. Like, their top and mid already have magic resist. I guess, like, I'd be thinking about it. I'd be building, like, my Amp Tome and then kind of deciding from there if I just want to, like, instead just complete Seraphs and ignore the Amp Tome, or if I want to actually build that Void second. Because I feel like this guy gets MR and you don't have Void, it's really, really rough. Okay, farming well. Coming up here. Nice ward. You guys are on Herald. Okay, let's see how you position. So, good playing in range so far. Yeah, nice kiting. Really nice kiting. Ooh, the ulti actually went on cooldown. I think it's not the end of the world. Maybe it is, actually. I feel like this is... The thing is, you don't need ult to kill this guy anyway. Like, he's dead, and you can just hold your ult from window after. So it is kind of a waste. Like, a lot of the time, you're even just using ulti to, like, set up big stuns and stuff, right? Like, it doesn't have to be used for, like, just to kill all the time. And I think the fact that it got wasted there is actually, like, really, really bad. Like, yeah, you actually can't end up killing this guy. So I think this is... Actually, no, you probably... Do you live? You don't have flash. Okay, yeah, so you said, like, your comment here was that like it ends up with you being run down. I think it's just you like pretty heavily misplayed. So I think here the ult is kind of unnecessary. Like either this guy just dies to regular abilities or he ults and then you have ulti after. Also think, let's see after. Hmm. I think the positioning after was maybe not the best. So like, okay, right now you're kind of, you want to be kiting towards Ashe, right? Like your safety here is Ashe in mid lane, and you want to be closer to mid lane anyway, so that whenever this fight finishes up, you can get back to the wave in time. But here, it doesn't really make sense to still be, like, it doesn't make sense to be moving back up. You want to be, like, moving further down. Instead, you're, like, moving further up the river, which doesn't really make sense. So, yeah, you like actually kind of end up kiting away from your safety, and you really mis-execute with ult, which I think is the main issue. I also think if you just kite down here, it might actually be better, because Ashe can auto the whole time. Because, like, here she, like, lost vision. She did kind of... I think Ashe might have kind of fucked you there, but... Maybe you just died of Viktor anyway. Yeah, I think you possibly just died of Viktor anyway. So I think this is like, we're definitely in the mid game already here. And I think skirmish execution. So really thinking like, you know, how can I get the most value out of ult slash stuns? And I think here the ulti usage was pretty poor. And I also think positioning. So you really want to be thinking like where in the fight is safe. Normally like safety will just be like behind your team. So this one is like pretty weird because, you know, it's just like a river fight and there's people on multiple sides. But I think you definitely want to be moving back towards mid again so you can get back to the wave quicker, and just so that like you've got everyone in between you. Like you want that Ashe and that Vi in between you and the Mord and the Mundo. Like you don't want to end up, where is it? It's like this position here where like you're right next to Vi instead of behind her, and you're like kind of split from Ashe. Yeah, it's like a really weird spot to be in. But I think it's mainly just like the ult execution. Yeah, so I would I think you kind of have to go Void second here, honestly, because I think Mundo's going to go Mercs and then Magic Resist after that. So yeah, that's another really unfortunate thing about going tier, is that a lot of the time you can't even actually upgrade tier second because you might be forced into going Void anyway. So yeah, I'd probably go for Void now. I definitely don't think Kindle Gem is the play. That's just, yeah, I don't know. Buying Seraphs can feel really awkward because if you don't have enough money for Rod, you're just buying like tank stats, and that feels really weird when you're snowballing. So I'm not a huge fan of Seraphs just as like a blanket option. Like I think Seraphs is a really good item. And honestly, it is like good on Syndra. I just don't think it's something you can just build every game and just like not think about it at all, you know? Like not consider, you know, what other items I need. Okay, yeah, now Mord has a Jack Show? Yeah, okay, so you definitely need Void right now. And if you don't buy Void, you're pretty much going to do negative damage. So if you go Seraphs and then Void and then Rabadons, yeah, you're just going to like be kind of struggling to deal damage for a very long time here. Okay. Kind of don't like the position a whole lot. You're like, you're just like kind of in no man's land. Yeah, I think you're just dead, right? What the fuck? Okay, you actually traded a kill, but let's go back to before it started. So I think, okay, you push the mid wave in. This is great. So right now, walk in the river and get behind Ashe and Vi. And no matter what happens, at least you can walk away. When you decide to go flanking on Syndra, it becomes very risky. And I actually see, yeah, like you were thinking here, like maybe I should go back behind them or maybe I should find the flank on center. The problem is, yeah, I don't know. It just ends up really awkward. You're just like, you don't have a way to get back to mid, and you just end up like behind enemy lines. And it's funny because the Ashe and Vi actually get out, but now you're the one that's stuck in here. So you do fairly well, I think, to trade back a kill, but ultimately you die again in a situation where you really don't need to. So I think this is again like really just team fight positioning. I think it's super, super important because you're getting really fed, but then you're kind of just like letting yourself down with your team fight positioning. And I think it's pretty easy just to like really focus on being positioned behind your team. Okay, so drag is up. You kind of clear that as much as you can, but it feels a little scary. When you have your team, you're behind Vi. Okay, I don't hate it. Yeah, I actually kind of like this. Yeah, nice. So you're behind Vi, you have access to both carries. Yeah, I think pretty good start. Okay. And just playing on your range. Yeah, no, I think you did pretty well this fight. I don't think there's like a whole lot different you could, yeah. No, I'm happy with that. I kind of feel like you've just like fumbled two fights though, and now the game's like sort of hard. But I think you did play that fight pretty well. Okay, this Mord, or not Mord. Wait, oh no, it wasn't Mord. It's too far in. Okay, so you've got the Seraphs. Sieging Tower. I think you... Okay, you guys actually do manage to get some kills here. I think you want to... Okay, so like... At the start of this is not too bad. You've gotten the kill. You guys can siege a bit. I think you... Yeah, probably can't do Dragon. I don't think you have enough DPS. You don't have to be at the bot wave yet. So sieging this is fine. You guys get another kill. I think now you have no cooldowns and you have 2,000 gold, so you really need to think about leaving. Hopefully you can just like get this guy out. I'd be really careful about overstaying here. Like no matter what, you have to live here because otherwise they can just look to do Baron. I think you're out, but this was like really, really scary. So I think you probably should have left a little bit earlier. Like probably I think right now, you honestly just probably leave. Just base a bit sooner, collect the bot wave, and then you can prevent Baron. Yep, 2.4k gold is definitely, yep, Void Staff angle. Very nice. I think it would be better as a second item, honestly. But at least you're building it now, like better late than never. Okay. So you can't really go bot, it's too far away. Kled is still farming top, so I don't think there's anything else you can really do here. You're behind the carries. Summons to center. He instantly dies. Yeah, good start to the fight. Now, both their tanks are below you. I think you kind of mess up by walking this way, so it's kind of counterintuitive. But I think if you notice how this fight starts, you actually want to walk up. So the reason is, like, if you walk down here, like, sure, you're with your team, but you're also in front of Mord and Mundo. I actually think you probably want to walk around there, end up behind Kled, and then kind of on the other side of the tanks. Because, yeah, I think this is really, really scary. Actually, good blast cone usage. Ooh. I think you might be in trouble. Oh my god, there's a tiny gap. Oh my god, you're so lucky. Okay, yeah, so I think it's probably better to path to Kled, or maybe you honestly just path towards Jin. Like, try and just, like, yeah, try and, like, go up a bit and, like, flash cancel his ult, just, like, flash ult him. Also think the combo you used here at the end was sort of bad, so good kiting on the Mord. For a start. But I think as soon as you see the Jin here, you want to open this with R. So like Q, R, E, because that way you guarantee the stun. Like if you start with QE, there's a chance he dodges it, especially because he's like a high movement speed champ and he builds Gale Force. So it looks like, okay, you're fed enough that you ended up killing him, but I really think you should start this with Q, then R, then E, and then like maybe WQ at the end. So kind of a poor combo, but you know, it works out. Ends up dying. You guys get the kill, you guys get Baron. I mean, this game looks pretty over, so... Like, yeah, maybe this is it. Okay, no one's farming mid, so you can farm at drags pretty soon. You have sums, you're really, really strong. Okay, good positioning right now. Nice stun as well. Okay, good ult. Yeah, I mean, this looks pretty... How do you guys not... Okay, wait, what do you say? I missed this. Want to save your gold for an easy Raj Rod? Oh, wait, let me go back to this. I want to save gold for an easy, but you think you should have bought a stopwatch? Honestly, I don't think you need stopwatch. I think if you position well, you'll be fine. I probably wouldn't spend the gold here. I'd probably just like come back on the map. If you did want to, you could farm like 200 gold and then TP back. But honestly, I don't think you need to. Like, you don't need a stopwatch here if you position well. It's only if you kind of like play bad, I feel like. Um, yeah, so let's kind of see what happens with this Baron, because I feel like you guys are pretty strong. You guys are going to secure drag, engage mid. I mean, can you guys not just like end off this? Or like inhib? Okay, yeah, okay. I guess you get inhib, go back to drag, which is pretty good. So we get this. Look to reset. We're level 16. Yeah, we have a lot of gold. Yeah, I mean, you're very, very strong. Yeah, so I think this was pretty bad positioning. Again, not just, by the way, from like micro positioning. So, like one, you're not really behind. As soon as Vi queues out, you have to turn around. You can't like keep walking in. And the second thing is, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for you guys to take this fight anyway. If you look at the map right now, like they've got members coming here, right? Like if you go back a little bit, Maud's coming, Senna's coming. Meanwhile, like Kled and Caitlyn are both top, and Ashe just died. So it's like this. You don't even want this fight, even if you play it a little better. So I think it's like one thing I think you really need to get into the habit of is just like tracking your teammates in mid game and just kind of seeing where they are, because there it just doesn't really make sense to fight when you've got no one nearby. And then yeah, I think the positioning could improve a lot. I think you really need to be just like super conscious of what your front line is doing, because it feels like a lot you kind of just like overextend, and if you like lose a flash like that randomly, it's really, really punishing. This can maybe go bot. I actually don't think you could have done like a whole lot more with Baron. The problem is like there was kind of just like some people dying. He said, and what was this? In this game, trying to find farm because islands are too dangerous. Spending your time fighting to end up sharing farm with teammates. I feel like this comes up a lot in games. I think it's, yeah, honestly, I don't think it's really like too much of an issue. Like I think some games like you're just not going to get as much farm as you would normally. I think this game is one of them because there's been so many kills. There's been 48 kills, which is quite a lot. You haven't really had time to farm. So I don't know. I don't think your side laning is really a huge issue in this game. I think it's more just like the fights the fights aren't as good for you as they should be, I guess. You could maybe go bot here. No, actually no one's showing, so you can't go bot yet. No, I think it's fine. Like, honestly, if you can get to 20 minutes with like fairly good CS, the CS after that is obviously still important, but not as important. It's just like, yeah, you really can't afford to fall behind at that point. Okay, this is... Okay, so first off, this is kind of a bad start too, so I think I would probably... I think versus Viktor, starting with QE does make more sense. Yeah, I guess the problem is just like you miss. Actually, no, the problem is that you don't have W, because if you have W, you can slow and then follow up with stun, or you can QE, and if you miss it, you can kind of like W to get out. But the problem is, like, you use W, and then you still try to play really aggressively. So I think this is kind of like not respecting your own cooldown, and you kind of get, yeah, that's how you get pretty hard punished for it. But honestly, like, you lived. Yeah, you really need to base here. Like obviously it's tempting to farm for Rabadons, but like you have a shutdown and you can't pressure the map on this HP. Yeah, you just base. Okay, nice. Okay, let's kind of just like skim through it, because I feel like the rest of the game is probably just going to come down to team fights more than anything. And see what happens here. So good start to begin with. Oof, you have... Yeah. Okay, so first, Ashe is in base, so you kind of don't want this fight. Like, it's a 4v5 no matter what. So anything you do here, like, you can still show presence, but you don't, like, want to hard commit to the fight. Maybe you just, like, look for the stun, and then you back off. Yeah, I think you look for stun and then back off. Because, like, the moment you commit to this, it's like you are trying to force a fight without Ashe here. And at best, it's a 1-for-1. Which is what it ends up being, right? And they give us 700 goals shut down. So I think this comes back to like tracking your teammates. Like you need to notice here that Ashe is in base and try not to fight. Like you really don't want a 4v5 there. Like you even said in one of your comments somewhere here that like you're pretty frustrated because you felt like any time in the last 10 minutes if we all fought together we would have easily won this game. Like yeah, if you don't fight here and you take this fight 10 seconds later when Ashe is here, you probably just win this fight and just end, right? But like you died too early. And also, because you died there, you don't quite have Rabadons until you go for another base, which is kind of annoying. Oh, you have a lot of AP. 820. Okay. Good stun. I like that to open the fight. I think this fight is, like, much better. Like, Vi is not that far away. Also, it starts pretty well. You get a chance. I think the R again here is probably not that useful. So another thing for like skirmishes and team fights is you got to think like who are the most valuable targets, right? You want to kind of like try and number them 1 to 5. So if you're looking at them here, I can't remember like all their champions, but I think Mordekaiser is like fairly low on the list at this point. Like he is a beefy tank and it's annoying. He does deal some damage, but he's not on the level of their Viktor, for example, right? So you probably want to be saving ult for one of the carries, and like you can just kill this guy here with just W and another Q. You don't need to ult. And a lot of the time, you want to, like, even if you could get a kill with ult, if it's onto someone that's low value, like either save R for higher value targets, or to set up a big stun. So like you drop R and then stun off of it. But here, you can't do either of those, because you've already stunned, and like, yeah, it's just like not a really valuable target. And like if you have R here, you just ult this Viktor, and now you just win this fight too. Right? Or maybe you win this fight anyway. I guess you're going to win it anyway, but I think if you had ult, it would be a lot cleaner. Okay, you end up winning it. You guys get Baron. You guys are going to come reset. I like the stopwatch here. It's TPing. Let's see, what do we say here? Wasted Baron. Yikes. Won the group. Yeah, I'd agree. Okay, so you guys are sieging. Here, be very careful again, because Caitlyn is on top wave, so don't be too aggro. I don't really like the assignments. I feel like Kled should kind of be on his own, and the rest of the team should be grouped. Caitlyn is still very far away, and she's resetting. Okay, so you guys all back off, which is, no, that's good. Okay, yeah, I think this is all fine. Like, honestly think, given the game state, like, your CS is fine, honestly. There'll be other games where the CS is not fine, but, like, there's been so much fighting, there hasn't really been, like, a lot of time to farm. And, like, you've still managed to get all your relevant items, right? So it's not, like, a huge issue. This, I don't think there's like a whole lot you can do about. This is like just your teammates getting caught, and then you kind of just need to make sure that you don't chain die. This is really important, by the way, as like a concept, is when your team dies, the worst thing to do is die immediately after, because like that means you just like chain int, and then you never really get back to being 5 people on the map. So you should be very careful here. Like, you don't have flash, they know you're down a member, and you're like hitting a tower while your Vi is recalling. This is like asking to die. It's actually, yeah, you really need to fucking be super careful of what you're doing here. I think you're dead, right? Yeah, you're dead. So this again is just like not really realizing what your teammates are doing. Right here, like look, Kled is pushing top, Vi is like going towards drag or recalling or something, and Ashe is dead, and you have no flash. It's not your turn to hit this tower. And then because you do, you like chain die. Like you die here with Ashe spawning in 10 seconds. And now Ashe has to wait 50 more seconds after she's up for you to be up. So it just means like you guys never really return to having full pressure on the map. And I think their big reason here is just like you keep not noticing what your teammates are doing. And like the thing with solo queue is a lot of the time your team is going to be doing the wrong thing, and so you need to like look at them and adapt to what they're doing, because you can't expect them to play perfectly. It's just not going to happen. Okay, here like Caitlyn's in base, so same thing, just like wait for Caitlyn. I don't really think you should ARAM. Like I think 4 mid Kled bot is probably the best. That's off with a decent stun. Okay, playing range. Probably need a match flash. Wow, what the fuck? It's a lot of damage. Okay, so I think honestly, this is kind of like, this fight I don't really have a big problem with. I think this is more just like you guys had so many chances to win this game and you like fumbled them all. And then it's like, okay, sure, this is like the fight you lose, but there's been so much gameplay up to this point that this like almost doesn't like matter to me. So I guess like you should probably go for Viktor here anyway. Like Viktor is, when Viktor shows right here, even though you've stunned, I think you just like look to Q ult that Viktor right now. And like you should just like get the kill on him. Yeah, I think you can Q ult him while he's in the Vi stun and you probably kill him. So I think just trying to hit the higher value targets is generally better. But yeah, I don't mind this so much, because it's like, yeah, there's so much more we could have done up until this point that this doesn't like really matter. So let's talk about like what we want to work on here. I think biggest things overall, I think try and like make your like rune / itemization, wait, well, I'm so out of it. Itemization, like more, I don't know, like consistent or like synergistic maybe, because I think like electrocute plus ignite, or like TP plus like one of these other ones. Maybe if you verse tanks, like first strike is the best. And then like I think there's like a lot of different stuff you can do around, do we want chapter tier? Do we want tier plus first strike? Do we want void second? I think the build you did this game, it ends up good, but I think on the way there, it doesn't feel that amazing. Early game, I think honestly, like I can tell you've like watched my laning guide, like that was like watching mini shock in the lane phase. It was actually kind of cool to see, but I think you just need to kind of do everything a little bit cleaner. So we need to like punish CDs better, like try harass on stacked waves. I think like try time harass with CS more, just so we're like getting those hits kind of a bit more. I think Syndra specific stuff, just like make sure you have a ball on the ground, like be really careful about ult usage. Try get like big stuns in team fights, either like use the RE combo or just like put balls on the ground and then stun off them all. There's like a lot of ways you can have a lot more impact. I also think like team fighting in general, like target priority is really big for you, and positioning, like those are just, yeah, they're kind of like costing you a lot at this point. And yeah, I guess the other thing is tracking your teammates, like knowing in the mid game, knowing when to like play aggro like in mid game, and like when not to. So just like look at what your teammates are doing and kind of decide from there. So I'll copy this to you. Let me know if you have any questions about anything, and I'll be happy to help you with them. So good luck.